So for my first ever assignment in film school, and a reason I went into film school, because I think with any kind of art class, you need to get something out of it more than if you were to just make the art alone. And I think I really did with this first assignment. It was just make a film in 5 pictures. And it really made me think differently than when I watched films versus making them. And I truly think this is the best film I made in all of film school. So to pay homage to that, and telling the story of my film school experience in just pictures. So in my freshman year, I wasn't actually in film school yet. In the second semester is when I took that class with that assignment. And it was also when I started making these stupid little YouTube videos with friends that were trying to be films. I mean, they were corny and terrible, but I learned so much from it because, I mean, when I shot the first one, I shot it and then I realized I had to get the footage off the camera, and I had to edit it, and I didn't know how to do any of that, and I learned how to do all of that. And it wasn't so much the films or the stories or the writing or the acting that is really amazing, but I was deriving things, very important things, slowly from that process. And then the summer came around, and overambitious Vinny decided to write a feature film that was going to be the next Godfather. It was an absolute fucking disaster. I wrote it out on index cards like David Lynch would say, and I don't even like David Lynch movies. I don't know how I'd listen to that. And absolute disaster, never going to be made. Then next semester starts, and that's when the real film school starts. But I didn't want to let that stop my YouTube videos I was making with friends. And I was still writing fantastical stories about monsters. I mean, you know, writing outlines. I was never actually getting that far, but I was still thinking about doing it. And in the classes I was, you know, being creative because they were creative classes. You know, they were a bit slow for me, and maybe I was expecting a little bit, you know, more intensity. But then assignments rolled around like, you know, make a storyboard for a movie that wasn't even yours. And I would, you know, have to spend all this time because of, you know, ADHD, making the storyboard for Blade Runner that the movie's already made. Why am I doing this? And it took away time from me thinking up an original story and making my own thing and learning that way. And then the end of that semester rolled around, and we were supposed to make a short film, and I did, and I hated it. It was a goddamn mess. You know, I was Elmo. That was me. And it made me very upset because it wasn't good enough. And the same day we showed it, I went and saw It's a Wonderful Life. And it was so great, it depressed me because what I was making was nowhere near close to that, and I knew it. I knew what a great movie looked like, and I was looking at my own stuff and, you know, ashamed to even show it to people. So I grabbed my camera and I just went out and I shot things because I wanted to make something great. And also during this time I was writing another feature film, again overly ambitious, and the first draft that I spent months on is now rewritten, every word. But still, it was something original and creative, and I did learn a lot from it, about film and myself. And I can't say the same for making those Blade Runner storyboards. But then the winter passed and I was just shooting, just like that one night after seeing It's a Wonderful Life, just shooting anything, wanting to make something great, and then slowly piecing together a story of what this footage could mean and how I could use it. And it was something, you know, so grand and elaborate, and again, overly ambitious, but I wanted to make something past, you know, what my classes were requiring, which was, you know, nothing. It was make one film, you know, every month, and it was a minute-long documentary. I wanted to make a damn feature film when I was 19 years old, not that. So I rented out, you know, the light equipment, and I rented out sound equipment, and I figured out, you know, all this stuff by myself, and I was shooting with friends and shooting with, you know, actors I met in the street, and, you know, trying to make something great. And again, it was corny, terrible, but man, I was learning. I was piecing together soundtracks of, you know, what I wanted, and none of it was ever made because it was way too exact. I wanted stuff my way or the highway, and that's just not the way, you know, a 19-year-old can have it. And then that summer passed, and I traveled and, you know, got so much life experience, and can't really say I translated that into film, but, you know, it didn't make me evolve as a person a lot. And I continued shooting this short film that started with It's a Wonderful Life that I titled Good Shit. I mean, you can't get more corny than that, can you? You know, I was getting these great shots, but there was no story. There was, you know, meat behind it. But still, it was way better than what I was doing in classes, which was sitting around and wasting time, you know, fiddling my thumbs. But man, I wanted to make stuff, and this, you know, ambition just went into insanity. Because, you know, in classes, you know, what I needed to do was, you know, sit around and listen to other people and, you know, make a diagram for what I was going to shoot. Well, I didn't want to do that. And, you know, where the camera's going to be set up and, you know, storyboard every single shot. I mean, these were the dumbest comedic skits I could ever come up with, and I had to storyboard every shot for it. Why? Why not just pull up a camera and shoot it and then get better? You know, should be making a short film every 2 days, you know, and then learning from and getting better at shooting, get better at writing, get better at lighting, get better at sound. But instead, we're sitting around theorizing, you know, how to throw a football. Well, none of us are actually picking up a goddamn football. And it was just more and more planning, and 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 more and more planning. Actually, that's my dad explaining retirement IRA funds to me. That was actually a very useful conversation. But myself, I was on final draft, you know, trying to write these feature films and trying to, you know, jumpstart my career and make something on myself, because I didn't want to end up like everybody else at the end of film school, where we learned absolutely nothing, you know. We learned how to, you know, put 2 clips next to each other in Premiere and how to turn on a damn light. And also in my second year of film school, the whole year was dedicated to making one film, a thesis film. Even though we made 0 good films up until that point, now we're supposed to make our magnum opus. How? But anyway, I wrote a short film for it, and, you know, the whole class loved it, and it was the dumbest, funniest thing I could come up with. And I went into the thesis meeting where we had to get our film approved with all confidence in the world, and it was shot down. I was told I had to restart and make something completely new, because my film wasn't a film. It didn't follow the rules enough. Even if everybody loved it, it didn't follow the rules enough. And then that night, I went over to the AMC Magic Johnson 9, 125th Street, and I watched a film with 0 words in it. Not a silent film. It was a film that came out that year, John Woo, Silent Night, with no words in it. And it was amazing. 10 out of 10. So there goes your fucking rules. But I am so unbelievably happy that did happen, because then I wrote another film. Well, I tried writing another film, and that's going to become another film. But the third film I wrote became my thesis film. The professors hated that one too, who, you know, didn't follow the rules enough, and I had to, you know, bend it to their way, and I pretty much just played war of attrition until they forgot, you know, what I was even making, and they approved it. And then I went fully into Vince Films' over-controlling mode of wanting to block every single light and setting up pool covers in the dead so all the lights would stay the same instead of just, you know, just shooting with inconsistencies. And I set up a little tripod by myself just to get the test shot of the framing. And then because this is my thesis film, I did it differently than everything else. I had more people. I had a person with a camera better than my shitty little camcorder. You know, I had a sound person. I had a lights person. I had a person doing slates. We did non-natural lights. We did everything differently. We did everything professional, and I fucking hated it. Not because of the process, because of the end result. It was worse than anything I made before that. And I'm not trying to, you know, just exaggerate. I'll show you exactly what I mean. So this is from the footage that we shot, you know, with the $5,000 camera and the whole crew, and how films are supposed to be made, how film school teaches you exactly what to do things. Look at where I am. And then I moved to the sink, which, you know, a couple feet over, but it didn't really move at all, did I? You know, if you look at them back and forth, it looks like I'm barely going anywhere. There's no movement in the frame. It's uninteresting. But then if you look at the test footage that was meant for nothing and set up on, you know, a dinky little tripod, you know, held up by taekwondo boards in a puzzle, look at the movement. Look at where I am near the stove. Then look at where I am near the sink. I changed in size. I actually moved. And that's why I reshot this film. Because the framing of the other one was terrible. It's the way films are supposed to be made. It's with a better camera, it's with the better lights. But the natural lighting looks better. The natural framing looks better than a nice camera. Look at them side to side. In one of them there's movement, it's interesting. In the other one, there's nothing. It looks fake. It looks staged. And where the blessing in disguise was with getting my original thesis film canceled was I made it anyway. I told the equipment people what happened. They agreed to just give me what I needed and even be in the film for me, and I shot it my way, and I did things my way. This setup wasn't even used in the fucking movie, but it's creative. And I used the people I know and I love instead of stranger schmucks as a crew. And most importantly, I had fun shooting it, and that is translated into the final film. With all the floor plans and storyboards, nobody was having fun in film school, and all the films looked uninspired by the end of it. Me and my boy Tim were hunkered down in a public bathroom for 4 hours, you know, laughing our asses off. And you can tell, because the film looks fun by the end of it. And at the end of the day, the film is fun. And instead of having one thesis film, now I had 2. And I don't know if that's the way film school ought to be, but it's the way mine was. And then in the following semester, I moved to Rome, and I studied drawing and painting, and I learned far more than I ever could in a film school about film through it, because I was actually doing it, not theorizing about it. And I was actually treating film like it was an art, instead of a trade, and I was experimenting and finding myself, and creativity. And I wasn't listening to schmuck professors who knew nothing because they never made anything great. I was listening to the Sicilian Sea and the Swiss Alps. The things they spoke to me were more valuable than anything you could learn in a classroom. And my professor for my oil planting class, he didn't want 1 or 2. He wanted 50 by the end of class. And he told me I should make 50 in 1 week. And this kind of attitude towards art was something I never saw before in person. And I loved it, and I connected with it so much. And I was seeing how much better it was making my art. So when I came back, I continued, and I did the series of selected works, or was making as many short films as fast as I could, and every single week I was getting better. And I wasn't learning in a classroom anymore, but I was learning through life and experience, and obtaining a unique voice because of that. And I wasn't waiting 8 months to make one 10-minute long film. I was shooting them in spare time. And through doing this, I learned what kind of planning you needed, because it is a necessary step, but it is relative. And every single film and scene needs a different kind of level. Some of them should be loose, some of them should be exact. And once my final semester ended and I was officially done with school, I began shooting a feature film. And I did it not in a different way than everything I've done before, like I tried with my thesis film Alone Together, because that ended with disaster. I shot it exactly how I shot everything before. Loose, and with some planning, but not an overbearing amount of it. And allowing in my mind for everything to go wrong, because everything will go wrong. But making art should be fun, and constant, and fluid, and going with the motions instead of fighting against the river. And doing it with the people I met. Not the people I met in film school, but the people I met outside of it. The people who understood art, and what it meant to make it, and how fun it was, and if we're going to be out shooting till 2 a.m., they'd do it because it's a good time. So I guess that's my journey of film school. I learned a lot, maybe on the conventional way. But honestly, I can't envision any other way. So I guess thank you. And good night.
Take 2. Clap sync. Because that's what men do. Okay.